The countdown is over. It is time. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to thank everyone for joining us on this episode of Chill with Jim, where it is always business up top and pajamas on the bottom. I am your host, Jim McCarthy, and I am the client advocate for Strix, Louisiana. So my job is to make sure that our clients are set up with the best equipment, the best software, and the best possible IT solutions to help make sure that their businesses are running at optimal efficiency. We also have David DeArmond with us.
Hey everybody, David DeArmond here, owner of Strix LA. We appreciate everybody joining us here today. Looking forward to this episode. Going to be a good one.
All right, so just a little bit about Strix before we begin. At Strix, Louisiana, we believe there's always a better, simpler, more secure way to do just about everything in this world. So what that means to us is we are constantly searching and adapting our processes to make sure that we do indeed have the best solutions in place. We believe that part of this responsibility is to help educate our clients as well as others out there on how to best use their current resources, to bring some awareness to current security risks, and just to talk about general trends in the IT world today. Part of this, we also like to bring in some special guests to share some of their wisdom and their knowledge with us. And that's actually what we are doing today. So we have a special guest, Frank Vanden Putte, with
You said Putt.
I tried to do his last name correctly. I'll never know if it was correct or not. But Frank is going to be going over trade show marketing, and he's going to help us all rise above the average booth. And so we'd like to thank Frank for coming on out.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you, Java. Thanks for the invite. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, so Frank, we're just going to go ahead and start out with just a little bit of a personal introduction. You can give us just a little background or maybe a little bit of your experience, just so we can get to know you a little bit before we kick things off.
Sure. So right now I am sales and marketing support with VDL USA. Here we focus on capital equipment for the food processing industry. And before I was working at a company for fast moving consumer goods. So with that, visited a lot of trade shows and all the activities around, but also for very complex and expensive capital equipment, as opposed to fast moving consumer goods, which have a completely different story and a different strategy behind them. Okay. So that's what we'll be talking a little bit about today.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining us. It looked like David had something to say there.
Well, Frank, you must not be from Louisiana. That you must be from Ohio or something like that. that accent.
So originally, I am a Dutch national here with my beautiful American wife, which is part of the reason that I moved over here. Right now we are in sunny Richmond, Virginia. But yeah, you will be able to tell maybe a little bit by my accent, definitely by my last name, that I am not originally from around here. But we've been in the States for a little over 2 years now, and loving every minute of it.
You sounded like a native when you said we're not from around here. Like the way you said that sounded native to me. So
I try to cover it up as best I can. Louisiana accent is a whole different animal, though.
Yes, it is. That's true. And I like how David made you a Yankee automatically, because
well, it's just a different accent,
Ohio, it's like Michigan, so I'm from Michigan, so I see these little digs that David gets in every now and then, every chance he can get. But no, yeah, thank you for joining us. Interesting backstory there, and That is why I probably messed up the pronunciation of his last name, is because I have yet to visit um, the Netherlands. Netherlands?
Yeah,
Correct?
that's
Yeah,
correct.
the Netherlands. Yes. So I don't know if Dutch is only the Netherlands or if it includes other places besides that.
No, you're good. And yeah, whenever you do get the chance, Jim, we'll get together.
Awesome. Awesome. So
We definitely need a Strix trip out to the Netherlands and do some business development out there.
I agree. I agree. Frank can be our liaison.
Yeah.
So just a little bit of a rundown for everybody out there in the streaming world. I think it looks like we got 2.7 million people joining us today through
No
different
pressure, Frank. No pressure at all.
venues, different social medias. Some of them you probably never even heard of because they exist up in my head only. So what we'll be doing today with the trade show marketing is we're going to actually ask some questions about how trade shows have changed, what Frank has seen from the past to the future. We're going to go over how do I prepare and plan for my next trade show and trade shows coming up in the future. And then just kind of look at what the future forecast looks like for trade show marketing and for how these shows are going to happen now that there has been a little bit of a change recently. So,
Hadn't heard of it.
you didn't hear of it? No. We'll discuss it for those who haven't heard. But Frank, I would love, your experience. You've been around. You've seen a lot of trade shows along the way. So, can you take us through a little trip of what trade shows kind of look like when you first started? And then maybe a middle point and what they're looking like now. Just kind of go over what marketing used to work well, what the atmosphere was like, and maybe how some of those approaches have changed along the way.
Yeah, I mean, to start out, like I mentioned, I started out with fast-moving consumer goods, stuff you see on the shelves and in local stores, for example. And from that perspective, trade shows have always been very focused on selling, for example. So really, if you're talking about tech, fashion, anything with a very short life cycle, you really tend to focus a lot on the product itself and try to score as many orders as you can on a trade show. And from my experience, I mean, I'm relatively new as far as trade shows goes, but I've been in a sales position for almost 10 years. And gradually you see a shift. Well, let's say gradually you see a shift from selling and product oriented to a more like branding and experience oriented trade shows where you want to interact more with a product or with a person rather than show and tell. This is what I've got, this is what I'm doing. Try to rope people in and make them part of the whole experience. So both as a visitor and as an exhibitor, that's something I think everyone has seen, has experienced when visiting trade shows. As a visitor, it's extremely hectic and extremely difficult to make it through a day, sift through all the information. As an exhibitor, and that's what we'll be focusing more so on today, at least you have the benefit of your story better than anyone else on the floor. It's your company, it's your product, it inside out. However, it's not easy either. So you are going to be on your feet all day, every day, early mornings and late nights, dinners, drinks, wine and dine are definitely part of it. I think that aspect has not changed at all. I think, the networking is always a part of it and will always be a part of it. But yeah, for a week or however long the trade show is, you wake up in the morning, you start your show, you finish. If you're lucky, you get to catch up on a couple emails, and then it's on to socializing, networking, and when it's all said and done, that's when the real work begins, when you need to reach out and connect with all the people you've actually spoken to.
Okay. So do you have any insider tips on keeping that energy going? I know it's got to be tough, especially if there's a lull, maybe where there's not a lot of people walking by. Personally, I mean, how do you keep the energy going to be engaged with the people you meet, to have that energy, to be able to bring them in, to see your excitement, and then save some of that energy for the whining and dining that's going to happen in just a few hours? I mean, you have anything you can give us some insight on there?
I mean, who is gonna man your booth? It's mostly gonna be sales guys, and sales guys are nothing if not competitive. So if you play on that, you want to, I don't know, give them an incentive is something you often see. Who gets the most leads or has the most business cards at the end of the day? Who is able to set the most appointments or follow-ups, or if there's an incentive, great. Even if it's just for bragging rights, that usually works just as well.
Yeah.
But I think that's a big part of it. It's long days. It is. I think it's very exciting on the one hand because a trade show is always the start of something new. Whether it's new people that you're going to meet, new products that you're going to see, new trends, new information, anything can happen or can be shown on a big trade show like that. And I would say after your third or fourth day, it's a shared misery as well. So everyone's hurting, everyone's tired. Goes for both visitors and exhibitors. Mind you, that people that have been walking around for a couple of days already. But you're still there. You're still there every morning, and you feed off each other's energy. And yeah, it creates a certain bonding experience as well. You see your colleague who has maybe had a few too many the night before, but he is still there. So that's, it makes it fun. It makes it, it definitely is sort of team building experience after a couple days.
I can imagine. I've done some trade show work in the past, and that look of, you look over across the street at the other, maybe the booth of the guys with the frisbees that were throwing them the first 2 days, are like sitting there exhausted. They're not throwing any more frisbees to people, and but that look and understanding, I can picture it in my head of that, like, oh my gosh, we're exhausted, and the other people are looking at you like, us
We
too.
know.
Yeah, and I guess you really have to be careful if you're running a booth. I know I've been to a trade show where the people at the booth were out drinking and networking. I mean, everybody's out there and you're talking, and these guys hit a little bit too hard. And I noticed that the last day that morning, they were not at their booth. Like it was a ghost town at their booth, and so they're missing an opportunity there. You got to pace yourself, right?
You need to understand your limits. But yeah, when opportunity comes around and one of the leads that you have been chasing for a while shows up at your booth,
yeah,
and like, you guys have any plans tonight? No. You have to jump on that.
Yeah. I think about there's been some tech conferences in the past that have come to New Orleans, and they started to, I mean, it was a great draw for people to come to New Orleans, but they started to realize the last day, no one would show up. They were all just hungover. They were all just went out and partied. Some of them didn't make it back that night, and they didn't know where they were at. But I've literally heard that, where it's like, we love the draw that New Orleans gets, but the last day is like we're 50% running at 50% of what we had before.
I mean, New Orleans is not known just for its tech trade shows, I imagine.
That's right.
A few other things going on.
Okay, so then a little bit about prepping and planning for the trade shows. Now, just thinking about it, like how exactly should I or someone approach laying out kind of what they want to achieve at the trade show? You had mentioned some of the salespeople, maybe they have a number of cards they want to get, but what as a broader picture, you know, how do I go into this with an achievement goal in mind?
So it's every single year. It doesn't matter which company or product or what do I want to show. It's you need to really ask yourself a couple of difficult questions. In terms of it's not as obvious as you may think. Like right now, we're offering packaging equipment for the food industry. But every year you may want to show something, or you need to show something different, whether it's new updates, whether it's a new branding, new opportunities. And these are the questions that you need to re-ask yourself every time. Am I presenting my company, my branding versus a specific product? Going back to a long versus a short lifetime life cycle. Are we really just showcasing this product, and are we going to have something new next year? Or tech, with fashion, with seasonal products? Or the industry that I'm currently in, these buying cycles take months, if not a couple of years, before you actually have something concrete that you can work with. If that's the case, you often find yourself talking about who are we and what have we done in the past and what is our experience and what kind of support can we bring for you as a potential customer. Another question is, are you talking to a lot of end users versus resellers? So, again, you talk about your products versus your services. What kind of added value can you bring? Or are you looking to really attract new customers versus nurturing your existing base? And, like I said, they're not difficult questions, but in a trade show, you can't do everything, and you can't do everything perfectly all the time. So what do you want to achieve out of a trade show? It really comes down to those kinds of questions. Do I want to attract a lot of new business? Great, then definitely showcase new products, new innovations, give some awesome deals during the trade show. If you want to nurture your existing, clientele, provide a training, provide a networking event, and of course, invite them beforehand. That goes without saying. But make them, feel appreciated and feel special, and take the opportunity of having all of them together to enforce that. So not a straightforward question, for everyone a little different.
Yeah. Does that change per trade show that you're doing? I imagine some trade shows are going to be geared more toward maybe toward a consumer, versus others are going to be geared more toward the business owner. Do you pick which trade show you attend based on that? What kind of decisions go into it?
Yeah, so indeed, we have a lot of the larger international trade shows, for example. Here you're going to see a lot of high-level executives that will attend it. And these are the guys that are not necessarily looking at the product itself, but more so trends as a whole. Other trade shows, and I'm just talking about our business, more local ones. Here you're going to meet the people that are hands-on with the product, local decision makers, and people who may work directly with your product and are going to refer you up the chain. So yeah, there's definitely a difference in approach, one trade show to another, but also year on year, if this is something that interests you or is necessary. If you have a great new innovation, one year, but the next year you want to, put your focus on more brand awareness and your existing client base, because the year before you may have had your new leads with your new innovation. That's a strategy as well.
Okay. So it sounds like a lot of, almost like when you're starting your sales process for your business, who your target audience is, who your target customer is, how do you approach it, coming up with some measurable goals. That's something to me that seems very abstract. And I wanted to ask you about that. When it comes to kind of setting these goals, I guess if it's a smaller sales cycle, you can put those into pretty easy measurable things like, did we, after this show, 3 months, we can look back, did we sell 6 to 30% of the people we talked to or something like that. But when you've experienced kind of those longer sales, like you yourself, what do you put any measurable goals, or how do you make your goals measurable to make sure it was a success? Like, how do you know?
Yeah, I mean, these things are not cheap. It's different for everyone, but trade shows can the total package of moving all your stuff, flying in your people, hotel expenses, booth setups, however crazy you want to go, up to a couple $100,000 easy. And indeed, so how do you reflect back? Was this a success? Did we do the right things? It's, you start at your benchmark. What did you do last year? What were your numbers? How many people visited you? These are, the most obvious ones, but also look at your website traffic, for example, starting, good 4-6 weeks before and maybe 4 weeks after the show. Jim, did you want to chime in on that?
I just thought it was a great point. I didn't even think to look at the website traffic. That's genius.
Yeah, it's you start beforehand with your direct mailing, for example, inviting people to visit your booth, taking out maybe website ads, that sort of stuff, and see if it works. See if your website traffic increases as you run through your activities. Yeah, like I mentioned, sales guys, competitive, so they'll definitely, they want to up their numbers. But if you do get sales out of your trade shows, use a reference, for example, or say, listen, you guys visit us at our show. If you use this reference, we'll give you 1, 2, 5% discount on a certain product. Just, appreciate you guys coming out and talking to us. And that way you can directly link every sale directly to your trade show.
That's smart.
Is there another one? Yeah, and another point, another tip. This is maybe obvious as well. Usually the trade show offers, a certain tool, gadget, scanner, but that it always helps immensely in keeping track of your leads as well, and just keeping track of the numbers. So that is definitely, if they don't provide it themselves, make sure you have it.
Okay. Very, very good points. Now, so you went over a little bit, you went over a lot so far, but marketing approach. So I really think it begins with that, what do you want to achieve question, who am I going towards? And then you can really choose which way you want to market. But talking about the tools that are available to you, and what I like about the trade shows is the swag. How do you decide which tools to use, to showcase it, and then what's the good swag? Like, how do you be the cool guy with the cool swag? Like, I mean, that's literally what is remembered a lot about a trade show. Is like, oh man, look at this. This guy had this cool thing that I can put here, and it holds this, and it
You want
talks
free
to this.
stuff, right? Everyone wants free stuff.
Yeah.
But not just another pin, like,
or not just another frisbee.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, I mean, as far as activities go, the easy things and the most cost efficient things are direct mailing campaign. I mean, this is really relatively easy to do for everyone. Easy to get started. The difficult part is who to send it to, especially if you're just starting out. You don't have a large customer base. You need to get your contacts. Multiple ways to go about this. Networking, LinkedIn are great resources for that. But that's the easiest and most cost-efficient thing, direct mail. Invite them to your show. This is what we're showing. Are you guys interested? Often a trade show offers you a certain code to where they can purchase their tickets online at a certain discount if you refer them. Or you give them a different incentive. If you guys come to our booth, we'll have cold beers waiting for you, or we'll have sandwiches at this time around this hour, whatever. Let's see, another marketing, I mentioned magazine or website advertisements. These may cost a little bit more money, and at least for the magazine, are a little more difficult to track. So it's personal preferences and for the industry. And what I find is that an actual letter these days, like mailed per post, works better than an email. And I think everyone can understand why.
Yeah.
You receive thousands of emails, especially around the trade shows. Come look at me, come visit my booth. An actual letter, an actual invitation, and put something personable or personal in there as well. A wristband, and with this wristband, you guys can redeem a pretty cool gadget, or a cup of coffee at our booth, or a cold beer at the end of the day somewhere we meet up. This gives you, one, people remember it. People will look you up easier, and people will possibly even visit you, during the show on your booth, and maybe, at the end of the day again to redeem for their gadget, or at the end of the show before they head out, like, oh, I still have my wristband on. Let me go back to these guys and claim my gift or cup of coffee.
That's a really cool idea, Frank. I haven't seen that one either. You give somebody a wristband, and you create this group that everybody sees that wristband. How do I get one? I don't have a wristband. How do I get one of those wristbands? And that drives people, like it creates attention. It drives people to your booth, and you can say, well, look, I've got a few extra wristbands, I can give you one. Not supposed to. That was supposed to be for before the show, but look, I like you. Here's a wristband. And you just give it to everybody. But
we did a couple of years ago with in my previous job. We, it was a company that worked with a lot of resellers that we visited during the show, and all of these resellers had their own customers. So what we did was on Wednesday, I think the second to last day, we did a big party on our booth. We had music, we had beers, we had catering, but only if you had your wristband indeed. And we were, handing them out on the show. We knew our resellers, and our resellers knew their customers in turn. And just like you said, it's like, hey, you guys don't have a wristband yet. Why not? Who's your agent? Who's your distributor? Let me go talk to him. Let's pull him in. The word spread. And it worked wonders. It's incredible what a couple of beers can do at the end of the day.
That's true. I'm kind of thinking too, is if you have that niche beer. So if you come to Louisiana and you're the only one that has Abita beer, and you're giving out the Abitas for everybody, and they're like, man, all they got is this Coors Light over here. Where's everybody getting these Abitas from? And you just have to have your wristband. And by the way, all we got to do is have a quick conversation. I need your business card, and you get a wristband and have one of these special Abita beers. So
yeah,
the ideas are blooming here, man. What
Have
have been?
them.
Go
Oh,
ahead.
sorry. Yeah, no, have them hanging around your booth. It's great to have a lot of attraction and a lot of people, or even have them branded with the Strix Louisiana logo.
Yes, exactly. So, what have, in your experience, what have been, if there's a one or two ideas or situations that have stuck out in your mind as being just like, oh man, this just is piling people in. You have a couple examples?
Like in terms of activities or like the gadgets that we use.
Well, I mean, the one you gave about having the party was a great example. But even if it's not your booth, have you seen other booths where it's just like, it's kind of like, so I've gone to a few, and it seems like whoever has the virtual reality is going to get a lot of people lined up because they want to play with that virtual reality thing.
It's cool.
Um, yeah, it's cool. It's interactive. You get to play a game. But I just didn't know if there was any that stuck out in your head besides the party, which was a great idea.
I mean, you see the craziest stuff during these shows. I mean, they really do pull out all the stops, and the bigger the better, the crazier the better. Anything that can make you stand out, of course. Some of the craziest stuff I've seen. I think the booth across from us, what was it, every hour or so, they had this massive booth, I give them credit, but every hour, I think, out of their podium, like this drum set came up, and like smoke machines went off, and like lights and guitars and dancers, and it probably took about maybe 3 minutes or so, but every single hour, every single day. For visitors, it was awesome. Kept a lot of people. It absolutely did. But after 5 days, hearing it every single hour, yeah, I think I still can sing along to the tune.
I guess you really have to look at, you need to look at how much a customer is worth, and how many more customers you expect to get based on, because yeah, I mean, if you give out a Lamborghini to everybody that stops by your booth, you're probably going to get a lot of people to your booth, but you might not get enough return on all of those new customers to pay for all of those Lamborghinis, right?
No, indeed. So basically, what do you want to use? What do you want to do for your customers, or what is interesting for them to come out and visit? If I put a Lamborghini on my booth, absolutely. If I put my face on it, I will be known across the world in a matter of hours. You mentioned the pens. Those are your staples. Your key cords, key change, thumb drives, pens,
Koozies.
koozies. Those are the staples. Those are cheap. Those are easy, and everyone has them. There's a reason that everyone has them, but I don't want to completely forget about them. It's good to have something, but that's not what people are gonna remember you by. So you really look at which industry you're in, and think in terms of your customers. What do they need, or what would they like? What would they use again in their job or in their private life? Keychains, key cords, thumb drives, 9 out of 10 times, they're going to be lost or forgotten within the first week after a trade show. God, what was it? A couple of years ago, we branded a couple of these. Awesome little thing. Protects your credit cards from scanners and scammers. It's got the company logo on it, and I still use it to this day. They're a little bit more pricey, but people hold on to it because it's a great gadget, and I actually have a use for it in my daily life. If I look at my industry right now, it's very technical, capital equipment, manufacturing. I would think in terms of maybe a branded Allen key set, or something that technicians can use on a daily basis, something they have a need for. I've seen people, for example, do Harley Davidson branded hard hats.
Wow.
These things are cool and they're unique. And same thing, if someone else in their facility sees one of their colleagues with a Harley Davidson hard hat on, they're going to ask questions and the conversation gets started. So these are a little bit more costly, but I think that everyone knows who they really want to target, who do they really want to, get an appointment with or be remembered by, or, who they're going to get the most business out of. And those are the people that are definitely worth investing in terms of these, little cool gadgets. If you talk to them for, good 30 minutes, which is a long time during a trade show.
Yeah.
Pull them to the back. It's like, hey, I really like your product. I really like your company. Here's a cool little thing. Just appreciate you coming by. That way you don't have to hand them out to each and every one who, stops and glances at your booth either. Someone you've really had a connection with.
Yeah, I'm curious if you've seen, Frank, if let's say you're just on a tight budget, you only can afford pins, okay? If you step it up a little bit and get the nicest pin and hand those out, I don't know if you've gotten better traction from something like that. I know we did a parade one year, a Christmas parade, and we got cups, and everybody has cups, right? Well, we got a little bit nicer cup, and it's sturdier, it's going to last longer. People were like mugging our float to get this cup, and they don't know who we are, they don't know anything about us, but man, that cup is better than the other cups, and so they came to it. Have you seen anything like that?
Yeah, sure. No, I think that's a great example. Right now, I have seen simple pens with, an Allen or a 10 millimeter wrench or something on the back of it, or the simple ones, you see with the rubber tip for iPads and phones.
Yeah.
One thing we were talking about recently is make sure your pens have metal in them, because food industry, if someone drops their pen into a bin or something, you want to make sure a metal detection system filters that out immediately. Those are requirements from your customer that they just need to adhere to. And if you play into this, they have a certain need. You can have very simple gifts, but very effectively.
That's great. I got a pen with a flashlight on the end of it once. I
And
use that pen all the time.
Yeah.
Whatever works, whatever you have a need for.
And if you're a cybersecurity company at a trade show, don't give out USB sticks. That's just a bad look. Bad look. Those things are so insecure.
If you do, just make sure it pops up.
Oh, sorry. So I wanted to just touch back on the budget part. You don't need to do for everyone a gift, for example. If you want to get a certain amount of leads out of a show, have a raffle, have just one really cool item sitting there that may be more expensive, but you only have one of them. And at the end of the show, or maybe even after every day, you do your raffle, people flock back to your booth because they want to win something, and that way you really limit the amount of money you have to invest as well.
That's great. I've seen that one in place. It does draw quite a big crowd. So is there a different approach that you take notice from international compared to like more of a local trade show?
Yeah, I mentioned a little bit earlier, I think international trade shows are the bigger ones in general. A lot more executive level visitors come out there, and what they're looking for is what is happening in the industry and what do I need to do with my company to keep up with different trends and changes, technologies, innovations that I'm seeing. And that gets, that information gets handed down the line, disseminated throughout the company. And down the line, you may get in touch with someone who actually works with it. They're looking for more long-term relationships, at least, in my opinion. That's how I approach it. So people that want to be kept in the loop and want to be notified about any changes and any innovations, but may not know everything operationally about the product or the company itself, nor do they necessarily need to. A local show, yeah, your local heroes, your decision makers, also the people that's what I love about it, that are actually from the area itself. So these are the people, if you make a connection with them, it's very easy to just call them up and like, hey, I'm in the area. Can I drop by for a cup of coffee? Let's chat. Let me show you what else I got. And it's a lot easier to maintain that connection and a lot easier to get feedback because they are directly working with, your product or service and play into that. So yeah, you tailor your strategies a little bit around that. Local shows may be more product oriented versus a big international show, which pulls out all the stops and has the lights and the fireworks and the bells and whistles,
Right.
Where you need to really attract attention to yourself.
I think that's a great point about the international ones being more of, you're gonna present it to like a bigger idea. You don't need someone that's in the thick of it, like how to work that works this machine every day. You're selling more of the concept, more of the idea. I could think of the local shows being like that's the guy who's working in this machine every day or does this process every day. And if he goes to all of his higher ups or maybe the whole group that go to this trade show and they're like, you guys, like, we do it this way, but they have such a better, simpler, more secure way of doing things. We need to give them a chance. And here's their pen and this frisbee that we got from them or whatever it is. But I love that you pointed that out because I think that's very important. A CEO is not going to want to know the nuts and the bolts of how this works or anything, but you want to sell them on more of that big picture thing. And those locals, you can hit on those. This is how it works. Go ahead. We have a little demonstration you can get involved in or something like that.
Kick the tires.
Yeah, kick the tires. Exactly. Yeah. Awesome. And just off topic a little bit, but I'm wondering, so when you go to the trade shows and you need like TVs set up and stuff like that, in your experience, are you bringing TVs with you or are you renting the TV when you get there?
It depends. I mean, for us, typically we bring our own TVs. I mean, these are investments that you make once, and the TV lasts you, get some pretty heavy use out of it during the trade show. You're not very kind to them, but they last a couple years. Renting a TV at a trade show, renting anything at a trade show, they're going to have a certain markup. They need to make a buck off of it as well. It's fair. But if you run trade shows consistently, I would advise to really look at the stuff that you use frequently, that you need to bring with you every single time, and just invest in it yourself.
Great point. And then if you buy a TV at a good price, you can raffle it off at the end. So you don't have to bring it back on the plane with you.
It's one of those things. At the end of every trade show, you always have a couple of people who, if you make me a great deal on this piece, I will save you the hassle of having to haul it all the way back home with you. Always a question.
I'll have to keep that in mind. It might be a good way to get some, inexpensive, nice stuff.
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it's always worth a try.
Yeah, that's right. Go for the no. Talking about the future, we'll go on to our last kind of topic here. But the future of trade shows, uh, we haven't really touched on it yet, but what have you seen in the last year of COVID that has changed how trade shows are functioning now? Let's start it off with that because I think that's going to base a lot of what the future is based off of.
Yeah, so it's it was challenging to say the least. If your business relies on trade shows a lot, which ours to a certain extent does, it was tough. Just to get out there, to maintain your contacts, to really show what you can do, really needs to happen in person, in my opinion. Again. So what we've seen with COVID, we've seen some really cool alternatives as well. We've seen virtual trade shows, we've seen virtual demos. Some were a bigger success than others. For everyone, it was unprecedented. That was the first time for everything. And virtual trade shows have potential, but they need some time to be perfected. And that went for everyone. Everyone was kind of struggling with, okay, how do I exactly do this, or how am I going to engage the people? Something that I normally do. How am I going to translate that into digital and a virtual version? So yeah, it has potential. I think one of the positives to come out of it is product demos. So we can set, an appointment or a call, and we can go through the machine in a more one-on-one setting. Saves people the hassle of having to travel. You can plan it, in an hour, whenever it works best for both. And I think another thing, if you heavily rely on trade shows, you all of a sudden had money to spend. You had this extra budget lying around. So what am I going to do with it? And yeah, to take that money and to invest it in some quality digital content, some good pictures, some good videos of every nut and bolt on that thing to use in the future, to explain something, to give trainings, and use in new brochures, leaflets, promotional videos, you name it. But use that money to create some good digital content.
Yeah, great thought. So when you're looking at the future, are we going to stay digital, do you feel? We're going to go back to where we can hand out swag to people in person? Also just thinking about a virtual reality trade show. King Crow, I'm talking to you guys. You can still virtually walk up to each booth and say hello. And you see, now I turn into a robot when I go into virtual reality. I don't know why, but yeah, but really, like, what, with your experience, what do you see next year, the next few years, kind of leaning towards here?
Nothing is going to replace a traditional trade show. It's the networking, it's generating leads, generating some new business, and it's brand awareness, presenting your company and your brand. And to be able to do that in person is invaluable. Looking at one of our machines, for example, going anywhere from 100,000 to 500,000 a piece, doesn't just happen by showing pretty pictures and a nice video. So you need to have those people who can explain their business, ask some questions, get some feedback, and tailor the story around them, rather than a one-way sort of communication, which is kind of what a virtual trade show is. 15-minute block, you show whatever you need to, and maybe some people will ask some questions at the end of it. So I think, yeah, traditional trade shows are here to stay, are still going to be part of the future, but with virtual trade shows and digital tools like your virtual reality, I think that is an awesome piece of technology that people should absolutely use more. You'll have more opportunity. if I want to visit a trade show in Asia or in Europe, I don't have to take a week or two out of my schedule anymore to see what's going on. At least get, the basic idea, shop around. I don't have to book flights. I don't have to book hotels. All of those investments are all of a sudden not necessary anymore. And I think for those, the international trade shows very far away, as a visitor, it has a lot of potential. As an exhibitor, I'm going to stick with the traditional ones, in person, make contacts, and just have an overall good time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I would imagine, you were talking about sending out mail to invite somebody. I would imagine if you sent them like a VR headset and said, come to our booth, our virtual booth, because on there you'll get the video that we can show you, and you can actually take, like for you guys, take our equipment apart, and you can actually look at every, like you said, nut and bolt in this thing. Here's the VR headset, just come to our booth and you'll get it. That would be a pretty good draw.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And these little you've probably seen them, the little cardboard VR headsets for your phone, for example, would be a great tool for that.
Yeah.
Nice. Trademark. Strix, LA.
Ideas.
Yes. Well, man, like Frank, this has been awesome. It really, I did get to go to a lot of trade shows with a few of my past companies, and it was always so much fun. There was the exhaustion factor, but more fun than anything else. And getting to know even just the other people that are there, what their products are, and maybe getting some of their swag is always great too. So, but yeah, I wanted to throw it out there to our 2.8. We're back up to 2.8 million viewers. If they had any questions, or David, I've been doing a lot of question asking. If you had anything along the way you thought of.
Well, I mean, nothing else that I didn't say, except for maybe the follow up. How long do you generally take when after the show and you've got all of these cards, and how do you know what to say to these people? Okay, you met 300 people over the last week. How do you remember? Oh, well, this was Joe, and he had this specific this specific use case, and so let me respond. How do you manage that?
Yeah, like I said, you need something to keep track of your leads to begin with. You need a scanner or an app on your phone. Scan a business card, scan their their entree tickets. They usually have a QR code on them with their personal information. But that just gives you their information. So
Right.
What have you talked about, Indeed? What kind of questions? If you're lucky, you have a piece of software that allows you to take notes, and you can add those immediately. If not, keep your own records. We typically have a folder in the back somewhere where we write down, a scan number 265. This is his name. He was interested in this piece. This is what he does for business, and we briefly talked about this, and this. And as far as timeline goes, what I try to do, and it doesn't always work, is at least send out a your thank you mail with a relevant piece of information. This is the product that we talked about. This is the brochure. Just have a look at it, and within the first week after a trade show, we're gonna contact you, and we're just going to pick this conversation back up in person or with a call, or however you prefer. But a week at most, at least, to follow up on them and see if you can get an appointment or a follow-up call in the books.
Yeah, that's a big one. I know I've been on the other side. I've never done a trade show from the exhibitor side, but I've done quite a few from the participant side. I'll get an email 3 months later saying, it was great meeting you at XYZ event. let us know if we can be of any help.
Good if
I
3
mean,
weeks ago.
yeah, well, number one, you're obviously just sending this out blanket. It should not take you 3 months to convert all of those into a form email. That should have been done quick. And so immediately I'm looking at this company like they don't have their stuff together. I don't want to buy anything from them. They obviously don't have their stuff together. So I think that post show strategy and effort's got to be strong.
Yeah, and especially in the digital age, it's not everyone is a number. It's too easy to just send out this blanket email, like you said, to everyone. But if you talk to these people in person, and they all have their own needs, their own products, and every single one of them is different, and that's how you need to approach it.
Have you ever set up meetings during the trade show for next week, and that way you go ahead and fill up your calendar, and okay, we're gonna get together? Have you tried that strategy?
I have, but not often. Because usually what I find myself doing the first week after the trade show is just pure follow up. You call, you email, you get in touch with the people, and there's really little room for anything else.
Right.
Unless you're lucky, and the guy is just around the corner, maybe an hour or two away, which, you can drop by easily. But if it takes more than that for personal visits, flying out there and meeting him, it will take away from other aspects of
Gotcha.
your follow-up.
I think, if you have a card with your picture, like, and you say, you're going to get an email from me, but I'm going to include my picture, so you'll remember this.
Recognize the face.
Yeah, and there you go. Like, I remember, this is me. We talked. Oh yeah, that was a goofy guy with the 2 thumbs up, dude. That was him. But no, I think anything to set yourself apart. But the follow-ups, it's one of the toughest things of sales, period. And then you add in, like, you took in 150 business cards. Hopefully you jotted something down on that business card that you can actually read because you're doing it real quick.
Yep.
And then you don't get their names wrong. It's like, oh, how's your daughter, Frederica, and blah, blah, blah. And like, oh, man, it wasn't the right daughter's name. Or, we talked about this, and you didn't even talk about that with that dude. But that has got to be tough, man. That has got to be tough.
It's no one's perfect, but so far, if I've ever made that mistake and people are listening in, I apologize. But we've all been there, and the same goes as a visitor. Like, oh boy, what did I talk to you about with this guy, or what did I ask again? It's on both sides. Yeah,
especially in New Orleans. I was drinking the whole show. I don't know what I was talking about. So, well, man, Frank, like, awesome knowledge today. Thank you for sharing your experience and wisdom with us. I know David is probably getting me ready to go out with my next trade show.
Got to get that card.
Yeah. But before we head out, was there anything else any more knowledge you wanted to drop on us before you head out?
Maybe, a little insider trick, just between us three. Don't be afraid to, go up to one of the other exhibitors. For sure, just to, check them out and talk to them, see how it's going, learn something about their business, see where there's some overlap, network. But also, if it is a compatible business, something that works really well with what you do, why don't we share leads? Why, don't we, you guys have some interesting people. If you guys want to filter through it, feel free. That's up to everyone. But it helps both parties, and it helps, build relationships, for one, with your trade show neighbor, and you get double your leads without any extra cost. So, and it's happened a few times. Give it a try.
Nice.
Genius. Genius, genius, genius. I'm glad he only shared it with us. Cool. Well, and if we had any quick questions out there in Facebook land and social media land, please speak now or forever hold your peace. But while we're waiting to see if any questions come in, thanks for all those who are watching for the support. Remember, we are on YouTube, Facebook. You can find us on LinkedIn. Like us, friend us, share us, follow us, all that stuff. I'm missing
Visit
one of
us at the
those.
show.
What'd you say?
Visit us at the next show.
Visit us at the next trade show. We'll have Frank representing us because he has a lot more experience and he won't be the goofy guy with the 2 thumbs up. So, but no, and then actually we'll go ahead. David, what do we have in store for next week?
Yeah, next week we're getting back on our cybersecurity kick, and we're going to be talking about pen testing. So we are not talking about the pen that you got at the last trade show where you test to make sure it actually works, and some of those cheap pens don't actually work. Now we're talking about a different kind of pen testing. So come find out what that is, and hey, maybe do you need it for your business? You just might.
Awesome, awesome. Well, thank you again, Frank. You've been great. We appreciate you coming on with us.
Yeah, thank you, Jim. Thank you, David. Thank you for the invite, and yeah, keep on the good work.
All right, we will. And remember, next week it's the same chill time, the same chill network. We'll see you there. Adios.